Hey friends, I'm Hannah Castio, and I'm a wife and mom who is a leader in the local church, and I'm passionate about living on mission and helping others do the same. This podcast is for you if you desire to understand your purpose, are ready to break free from shame, and are yearning for a deeper connection with God. I'm so glad you joined us as we explore where God is in our very lives and what He's doing. Come hang out and let's uncover the beauty of God's glory in your story together. Here we go. Welcome back to the God's Glory in Your Story podcast. Just wanted to give a quick disclaimer. Today we are talking on the topic of abortion, and this isn't a conversation that we want to have fighting. This is a conversation that we want to have how can we be the hands and feet of Jesus and show up and love and not be afraid of this topic, but instead of just judging and having an opinion, that we actually look out for those who have walked through this. Today on the podcast, I have Kristi. Kristi, I'm so excited to have you. She is a runner. She works at a smoothie shop, and she is just a light that has come into my life recently. So, Kristi, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, girl.
Would you share a little bit about yourself so they can get to know you?
Well, I've been married for almost 20 years. I have 3 kids, and we are getting ready to launch. I love the Lord. I'm in my racing era right now.
Yeah.
I've done multiple halves and 10Ks and 5Ks all here starting in April and going into the fall here. So really challenging myself in that way.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
That's so fun.
And then probably something that people might not know is I love doing yard work.
Okay.
I love trimming trees and shrubs and weeding and all that.
Yeah.
That's something that I really enjoy. So
okay, that's so fun. I did not know that about you.
Yeah, right.
How fun. So I'm going to have you share your testimony if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
You're ready.
Okay, so I grew up in church and I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. I didn't have people around me who lived for the Lord. I didn't have examples around me. But I got confirmed. I was baptized as a child. In high school, I really kind of hit rock bottom, I feel like.
Yeah.
I had a failed suicide attempt. And then shortly after that, I found myself pregnant at 18. And then shortly after that, I found myself married. And then I had 3 babies. Mm-hmm. So I think when I look at my life, I can see how, before getting married and having kids, I didn't want a family. I didn't want to have kids. I didn't want to get married. And I think that looking at it, I can see how God had showed me His love through all those blessings and through those things. And then it was, I think really when my heart had shifted was when our friend's baby had passed. And so I think when I heard that, it definitely, there was definitely a heart posture shift. There was something in me that just changed. And then it's just really been a progressive journey. I can see how He is bringing glory to Himself through the Bible study and healing other women. And it's definitely healed my heart. And it's a choice to stay in that space for sure. But I can see how He is using that for His glory. And I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Can you share with us the name of the Bible study?
Yeah. Forgiven and Set Free. It's a Bible study for women seeking healing after an abortion. And so I found it from Victoria Robertson. She was actually on a podcast. She was on the Skillet podcast. What is his name?
Cooper
Stuff. It was on Cooper Stuff. Okay, so it was on Cooper Stuff, and I remember listening to his podcast, and then he had her on as a guest, and I think that was life-changing. That was holy cow. I think she was the first person that I was hearing that had an abortion. She was bold in it. She, the Lord has led her there too of, hey, okay, so men and women are making this decision and they're sitting with this. And so, like, God doesn't say that you're those things, it's kind of, there's a lot of healing in that. And so I think, it was a really powerful episode.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's awesome. And I know you've shared with me about that you got rebaptized. Can you share a little bit of that with us too?
Yeah, so it kept coming up after I came to faith. I knew I wanted to get baptized, but I wasn't quite sure like when or, my testimony. But I was running, I was on a long run, and do you want me to share this part again? The I Surrender song came on by Hillsong Worship.
Yes, I love that song.
And so I had like a come to knees moment where I was like, Lord, what are you wanting me to do? I will do whatever you want me to do, God. Hard, like whatever it is, I want to bring glory to you. And I want you to use my life to bring glory to you. And so I think after that, it just, I don't know. I just knew that I was going to get baptized. Like, okay. I was like, it's time. I was sitting in church and we were doing baptisms at our church. And I almost raised my hand and asked the pastor to baptize me right then and there. And it was January, it was cold, and my hand almost went up. And then I paused and I started thinking, and I thought, well, you don't have any clothes, and I don't want to be disrespectful to the pastor. And so, really, I'm sure he would have went with it, and we could have figured something out for clothes, but I paused and I didn't, but I knew right then and there that it was time to get baptized.
Yeah.
And so then I was baptized. It was just a year and a half ago, and it was really powerful. I just remember it was Easter Sunday, so it was a full sanctuary, and I just remember I was not nervous at all. Like I just remember wanting, like I just was envisioning of like running to the Lord. Like, God, I trust you. I trust you with my life. I want you to use me to glorify you, no matter what that is.
Yeah.
And by then I knew I already did the Bible study. And so I knew God's love for me even after I made this decision. And so I just felt so loved. And I remember somebody saying shortly before, they were like, oh, you're going to enter in the sacred space. And I thought, like, enter? Like, aren't I in it? Like, I didn't know. Like, I never thought about the after baptism part. I was just thinking of the going to the baptism part.
Yeah.
Like, God, I'm coming to you. Like, I just lay it all down for you, Lord, whatever you want to do with me. And I trust you. And then, then afterwards, I went home and I just remember, like, I was just in tears, like off and on the full day, like off and on the rest of the day. Yeah. I felt so loved. Like there was just such a bubble. Like I just wanted to stay in. Yeah. I felt so much peace. Like I just was so, so thankful. And I remember that week, like going back to work and just kind of like just being heightened of things, like, and thinking, okay, Lord, like I don't want any part in this, but yet, like I just wanted to stay in that bubble, that baptism bubble, and just that sacred space, really. Yeah. And so it was really special. That's I have never felt so loved in my life after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that. So first of all, thank you for being so brave and sharing part of your story, because I think bringing up abortion in Christian circles can feel like a taboo topic and people don't know how to talk about it because there's 1,000,001 opinions if you go online. So we're trying to navigate, how do we actually talk about this? And we don't want women who have experienced it to feel that shame that it can't be talked about either. You're very brave, and I love that you're sharing your story. So thank you, first of all. And secondly, I just wanted to say, as you were unpacking this part of your story. And it took this long time in this journey. We just want to encourage anybody who's listening that if this is just too hard to listen to today, it's okay. If you know somebody who's walking through this, we just ask that you would have grace and kind of go into this with curiosity and understanding in these types of conversations with people, and that we don't always know where people are at in their journey. You were sharing with me, not necessarily on this podcast here, but one statistic you had shared with me that it was 1 in 4 women. And so we might not even know who we're standing next to who has experienced this, but the chances are pretty high that there are people in your life, whether they've shared it or not, that are walking through this. And so we wanted to have this discussion of how can the church actually show up for the women who have walked through this, who are thinking about walking through this, because a lot of times we just say, it's either a pro-life or a pro-choice argument, even in the churches, and it can be very divisive. But the thing is that there are people who have walked through it. And so if we lay our opinions aside and actually go, what would Jesus do? What would he want us to do? So would you share a little bit with us how you think the church can show up to walk with women, not just to try to fix something, because that's not the point. The point is loving people, because that's what he calls us to do. So if there's ways that we can show up.
Yeah, being the hands and the feet of the Lord. Well, I lead a group. It's called Forgiven and Set Free. And so I think churches can support men and women by having access to the life group, or whether they're leading it at their church or knowing another church or something. Just having a resource that's a safe place where men and women can go and unpack all that. I found it very healing. I had done it with my mentor before I led the group. And so I found a lot of healing in that for myself, but it really, you're really unpacking that box. Because when something like that happens, it's trauma. It kind of you put it in your brain and you kind of close that box, and then life kind of goes on. But there's these moments where you're kind of reminded, and then you're like, okay. So I think not only does that feed the shame and the guilt at times, but the Bible study really kind of brings it into the light of, okay, this is what God says. I made this decision. What does the Lord say about it? And so I think having access to the Bible study would be a great way to support men and women. I also think bringing it into the light altogether, maybe having people speak just how either their experiences. I think hearing how God had redeemed other people's lives can be so encouraging, and it can help other people be brave in their healing and kind of unpack their stuff. And so that might be a good way as well. Talking about it maybe at the pulpit, or maybe in specific groups. In my opinion, I think that would be a really good way to kind of help support.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I think there's this, it's probably not been said out loud, but it's this thought that goes through Christians' head as we go, oh, well, they probably just don't come to our church. People who are actually walking through it. And they do.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things of going, how can we be careful of things that we say too?
Coming across judgy at times, but I think when you're feeling something like that, I think oh, you're being judged. But I think what people forget is that sin is sin, and God doesn't rate our sin on a tiered system of, oh, you had an abortion, so you are not going to heaven, or you're looking at porn, so okay, it's maybe not as bad, or it's not like that at all. Sin is sin. So we are the church, but I think going to a church, I think it would be really helpful for those that are suffering and the shame and the guilt, and they're carrying that every day. And they're going about their lives, their moms, their dads. I have some numbers.
Yes,
if I can
share
share
some statistics with
okay
us.
So a lot of the numbers here that I'm going to share, I got from liveaction.org. A lot of people don't know what an abortion procedure is. A lot of people obviously know that it ends a life, but a lot of people don't know. And so I'm not going to describe anything, and I'm not going to talk about it, but if you're interested, I encourage you to look at whatisabortion.com, and it'll go through the different procedures. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I do know that the abortion pill is number one, and that is used, I think it's under 11 or 13 weeks. And what these women are being told is it's a clump of cells and it's safer than Tylenol, and you're not going to feel anything. But what it's doing, and all that's not true, what it's doing is it's creating a traumatic, not only having an abortion is trauma, it's traumatic all in itself, no matter how it happens. But when women are experiencing this at home with the pill, they're bleeding heavily. They're passing their baby alive, no matter what stage or, earlier in their pregnancy. And so just the traumatic experience with that, like they're experiencing that in their home, probably a lot of times by themselves. I'm not really sure, but so very, very misleading. But if you don't know what an abortion procedure is or what the options are or what women are doing, go to whatisabortion.com. So the leading causes of death in the U.S. is abortion.
Really?
The numbers are 1,026,690. Following that is heart disease at 68,909. And then close to that is cancer. That's 613,331.
Wow.
So abortion is over 1 million. 1 in 4 men and women. So men a lot of times are in the dark. A lot of people focus on the women, but it takes two to tango. So, the men have a whole different side where they, they have the shame and the guilt, but they don't feel like they have a voice because our society tells them that it is a woman's body, it's a woman's choice, and that's just not true. And so there's been, there could have been something where, maybe the man wanted to keep the baby, but the woman didn't. And then, the woman goes ahead and makes the decision without the man even maybe knowing or, going against. And then the dad's like, well, wait a minute, I wanted the baby. And so, and then, or sometimes maybe the man could have pressured the girlfriend or, wife or whatever. And so, then the woman is sitting with that of, okay, I felt like I was forced, or maybe, she felt like she didn't have any support or anything like that. So it's definitely not just the women.
Yeah.
Okay, so Planned Parenthood is the largest abortion chain, ending with the lives of over 354,000 American children every year. So Planned Parenthood alone does 354,000 abortions every year. And with that, committing 970 abortions a day. It aborts 138 children for every one child it refers out for adoption. So when a woman comes in pregnant, whether she's married or, which mind you, it's not just your 16, 17, 18-year-olds, it's also your 40-year-olds, it's all ages. They're coming in, and whether they want to give their baby up for adoption or, maybe not knowing their choices, Planned Parenthood will push for an abortion. The abortion industry dehumanizes preborn children and uses phrases like clump of cells, products of conception, and reproductive choice. There is nothing. So Planned Parenthood claims to focus on women's health, but doesn't perform a single mammogram. It does less than 1% of pap smears in the United States, and yet it commits over 38% of America's abortions. So those are just some numbers of how high this is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if people are aware.
Wow. Knowing that there are probably somebody who's listening could have experienced it, someone they know, someone who's going to sit next to them in church. What is a way that we could encourage someone who's currently walking through this and is has experienced this? And then I would like to touch on what's something we can do to encourage somebody who knows somebody walking through this.
So the numbers are so high, they're 1 in 4. So we all know somebody,
Yep.
and you might not know that you know somebody.
Right. Yeah.
And it could be anybody in your life. In my opinion, I think the biggest is just listening, like a
Mm-hmm.
non-judgmental listen. It's throwing your thoughts aside of what you think is right or wrong, and it's just sitting and listening. I think pointing them in a direction of support. I think this can be really heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and so having a safe space for the person who did experience it to talk about it. This was over 20 years ago. So in the last couple years, is when I met another woman who experienced an abortion too. And I
Mm.
can't tell you the level of healing that took place just in that. Like,
Yeah.
hey, knowing like what we experienced together,
Yeah.
there's healing in that too. So finding a support, and if they're open to it, pray over them.
Yeah.
Pray over them either in the moment, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe ask, like, what can I pray for you? What can I pray over you? Or just do it,
Mm-hmm.
But some people might not be ready. Like, that's the other thing too. So,
Yeah.
there's the different grieving that takes place. And so, they might not even want to know like what God says, or
Right.
they might not be ready to hear it. But part of healing is accepting what you did and
Yeah.
really looking at it like, wow, like I had a beating heart in me that I ended. I chose to end. And so there's healing when you accept it and you acknowledge it. And then, like with the Bible study, then you're looking at like, okay, so I did this. Like, what does God say about this? Like, who
Yeah.
does God still say I am? Like, even
Yeah.
though I did that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
That's so powerful. So years ago, I went to this women's conference and I knew nobody. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I knew nobody. And it was an interesting conference because at the beginning, like people didn't really want to like clap or raise their hands or anything. And by the end, everybody was like excited, lifting their hands, like singing super loud. And they ended it with like a time of confession, which normally we think of starting with something like that, but people have to like be warmed up a little and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Feel
trust you,
comfortable.
feel
Yeah.
comfortable, right? And there was this lady who came forward who was in her 60s and had never told a soul that she had an abortion, and I was standing right next to her. And it was one of those moments where I was just like, oh my gosh, wow. Like I felt like the breath of fresh air for her when she said it out loud. And I wish that her daughter could have seen it that way, because her daughter was very upset. And I was like, I get it. Like, you probably wish you would have known that.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see the freedom that your mom can experience now because she did say, hey, this happened. And now, because we know, we can come around her. And now we
Mm-hmm.
can do these things, because I think it's hard, because I think the topic hasn't been brought up to us, that we then have never had to go, how do I do this, unless we go
Mm-hmm.
show up at a pregnancy center, or we,
Mm-hmm.
like we haven't always had very practical tools or
Yeah.
ways of how to do this. So I love talking about this so that we actually can go, there are people right in front of us that we
Oh
don't even
yeah.
know are experiencing this. So how can
Yep.
we be so careful to, I don't want to be a walking trigger bomb for people. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I can't, I know I'm not perfect and can't like do that for everybody, but trying to be aware of,
Mm-hmm.
we never know the battles
Right.
people are fighting. And so the
Absolutely.
verse that came to my mind, 10:15 says, a voice spoke to him a second time and said, do not call anything
Mm-hmm.
unclean that God has made clean. And so we just wanted to share that for anyone who has experienced this, you might be feeling the shame and the pain and the hurt, and you're starting the healing journey and you're working through these things, but we know that forgiveness is
Mm-hmm.
for the taking. Like when Jesus died on the cross and said, it is finished, that included everybody, every sin, because sin is sin, like you shared earlier. And so we just want you to feel that freedom of the forgiveness, because we're our worst critics sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And if people are saying things to you, speaking it over you because of a decision that you made, like, are we going to actually share the true gospel message with people that, hey, Jesus also loves you and he loves me? And like being willing to be uncomfortable and let the Lord change and transform our hearts as we also love different people who've walked through different things than us. There's things that I don't understand that people have walked through. And by hearing their story and how God met them has changed my life and changed my perspective on things. And so, yeah, a couple of things we had talked about before we did this podcast was we know people are needing empathy and compassion and not judging, because there's already a lot of judgment that's cast throughout the world. And sometimes the worst is from Christians. Like, let's own it. Sometimes we are the worst. And so how can we do that? And so just some things to think about is like, hey, how can I come across as empathetic and with compassion and non-judgmental, because their sin isn't worse than our sin.
With the judging others, Matthew 7:1-2, it says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For the same way you judge others, you will be judged with the measure you use. It will be measured to you."
Yeah.
So all sin is equally wrong and sinful. Even the smallest sin is an expression of rebellion against God. And then in Romans 3:23, it says, "All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God."
Yeah.
In Romans 6:23, it says, "For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord." And James 2:10 is, "For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking all of it." So we will all fall short of God's glory. And yet he always meets us right where we are.
Yeah.
And he sent his son for you, for me, for all of us.
Yes, that's so good. Okay, I just love that you're so passionate about this topic, because I don't meet a lot of people that are, to be frank. Can you share what has fueled this passion, ways that, I know you said you lead this group, so how has that helped with your passion to like keep going and speaking up for those who might not even know how to speak up for themselves? Or just to be a voice that is talking about it?
Sure. So I'm learning to talk about this myself here, but I feel very passionate about this. I'm a stay-at-home mom. And so our youngest went to kindergarten, and I was kind of like, okay, like what do I do? Or like, what am I going to do during the day? You know, like being a wife and a mom is like, I love being a wife and a mom. I love being a homemaker. I love doing laundry. I love doing dishes. Like, I just love being at home with the kids. Like, it has been such a blessing. And so our youngest went to school, and I thought, okay, well, now what? Like, I was preparing for it, like when she was in 4K, of like, okay, I'm going to have this time like during the day. And we open enrolled our kids, so I was driving a lot in the car. But, you know, when the kids are at school, I'm thinking, what the heck am I going to do? Like, okay. And so I really kind of dove into volunteering, and I dove into volunteering at our church and in our school. And I just remember thinking, like, there was a grieving of that year of like, okay, Lord, I think we're done having kids. Like, now we're kind of going into this next season here. Like, what does it look like having older kids, you know? And so, like, I would just have multiple conversations, like with one of our pastors in particular, but like, I would just kept saying, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm volunteering, and I had learned that I have a very servant heart. I love serving others. I love being the hands and the feet. And he was very patient with me over the years, but slowly, like, I was in the waiting, really, is what I was. And so it wasn't until a couple years ago where I really got the big picture, where I so I'm a runner, and I was on a long run, and I was on this country road, and I Surrender by Hillsong Worship was playing, which I love that song.
I love that song.
And so I had a come to knees moment where I was like, God, I will do whatever you want me to do. Whatever it is, if it's really hard, I'll lean into it. Whatever you want me to do, God, I will do it. And it was shortly after that, I had met with somebody who was very wise. And I was telling him all these things, two things that really stick out is a few years before this, so this would probably be 8 years ago, I was volunteering at a local homeless shelter. And I would watch the babies while the moms were going up to their classes. And so I remember one day in particular, this mom, she handed me her baby. And I loved all the snuggles and all that. But I just remember having this thought of I want to be where are you going? I'm going to go where you are,
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a very distinct moment for me that has always stuck out. And then another moment was I was volunteering at our local pregnancy center who these women are coming in and they don't know if they're going to have an abortion or if they're going to have their baby. Mm-hmm. And they give them an ultrasound and they pray over them and all these things. And so I was at this pregnancy center volunteering. I was sitting in on appointments. I was praying over these women. And one day I was in the back room and I was putting together these newborn bags that the moms were going to get after they had their baby. And I remember hearing one of the other volunteers saying, I think she's going to have an abortion. She just got out of an appointment and she was saying, this woman's going to choose an abortion. And I ended up getting triggered. And I had no idea where, I didn't know any of my feelings. I didn't know where it was coming from, but I got triggered. And I'm trying to keep it together in the back. So I went and I talked to one of the managers, and I remember one of the first things that came out of my mouth was well, what are we going to do for her? Who is going to help her after, if she makes this decision, who is going to help her?
Yeah.
And I think having those two things right there at the homeless shelter and at the pregnancy center.
Yeah.
And then I came across this Bible study, and then I ended up, I walked through it. I have a mentor, and she walked through it with me. And it was, the man that I saw to seek wisdom with, he was just Kristi, I think this is what God wants you to do. And so I feel the passion behind it. I'm learning to stay respectful in it, but yet be bold in my faith in this of, hey, there are men and women that are suffering in this, and they don't have to be. They can walk in freedom in this without any judgment, with any condemnation, and God still loves them. God sees them as white as snow.
Yeah.
And so I think, there's a lot of passion behind that for me. Even leading the Bible study, there's just seeing the healing in the women that have done it, from the first day all the way to the last. They're lighter. They've unpacked all of it. Their healing journey has started. And so, God wants these things to be brought into the light. Yeah. And when things are feeding the shame and the guilt, we're kind of feeling in the dark, and that's where the devil wants us. It feels terrible to live life in that space, and it feels so good and so much freedom to really live in the light with it.
Yeah. Wow. When you said, what are we going to do for her if she has an abortion?
Mm-hmm.
Most people aren't thinking about that, in the church. And I remember, so when I was overseas, different topic, but I was working with a lot of people in the red light district, and God told me to confront a John, who's the one who buys the girl. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the hardest things. I was like, God, I'm probably in danger. Why are you asking me to do this? And he told me, he was he put me in my place, because I tell God he can do that. But he God was just like, Hannah, your sin's not any better than his. And I just shared my story. He's like, what? Why are you here? And I wanted to be like, why are you here? Except I know why you're here. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't really know why he's there. I don't know what made him take this path to come to this certain place. But anyways, that is like a whole nother conversation we could go on. But what I was going to say is God had me start praying for the Johns.
Mm-hmm.
And so are we also doing that for the men involved in these situations? Also for the women who are trying to decide, the ones who have decided, how can we come alongside them versus only doing it a certain way or only doing it like, okay, so you kept the baby, so because you did that, now we'll help you, instead of going, how can we be there for every person in that part of their journey?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's super powerful. And I was just thinking, like, I know my mom helps, she makes these like restoration bags
Mm-hmm.
for women who've come out of trafficking. But I was like, that could be a very resourceful thing also for women who've walked through an abortion.
Absolutely.
Whether it's fresh or it's years later.
Yeah.
Because I know my mom, her whole thing was about it being a bag of dignity.
Yeah.
And so of going, hey, how can we come around them as a safe place? And I was like, that would be amazing. Like, that was like what I envisioned when you said that. I was like, oh my gosh, this needs to happen too, because they need to know they're not alone and that they're loved and cared
Absolutely. And I think I have such a different lens on this stuff. I mean, obviously I have a different lens because I experienced it, but I feel like, you know, I am very pro-life. Like, even though I made this decision over 20 years ago, I knew God, but I didn't have the relationship with God.
Right.
So, you know, having the culture be a big influence. You know, I was 18, I was going to school, I wasn't married, I had a serious boyfriend, but, you know, a lot of what our society says is if you're not, like, if it's not the right time, you can kind of just, you can really, you can take care of it, you know, if it's not the right time for you. And then also, you know, you can't have a baby and a career. Like, you know, society says you can't have both.
Right.
And those are just plain lies.
Yeah. They're just plain lies.
So there's a abortion clinic that just opened up, and I had this stirring. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do it. I thought that I would purchase like a handful of the Bible studies and just like hand them to the women. Like, I don't even know what that looks like before they're going in, or, you know, whatever that look. I don't know, but I just thought, people are so lied to. Like, we think, like, society is telling you, hey, if it's not the right time, you can take care of it. It's just a clump of cells. Like, it's fine, you know. But what is not being talked about is the after part. And it's the trauma, it's the guilt, it's the shame, it's the anger, it's the self-denial, it's the self-destructive, you know, phase. Like, there's so many things after it that nobody is talking about. And so, I think that's what needs to be brought into the light, for sure.
Totally. Yeah. So good. So good. Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to share on this topic?
Well, I'm thankful for the opportunity to kind of talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for you, Hannah. I think that, I'm really wondering how God's going to use this. I'm still wondering how God's going to use me in this. I feel confident that this is where he wants me. This is what he wants me to be talking about and wants me to be doing. And I think, I know I want to be bold in my faith, and I want to be bold in this. I'm just very thankful for the opportunity.
So if you are someone who's walked through this, or you know someone, or maybe you don't know someone, but you want to chat further, you can reach us on Instagram, and I'll have our info in the show notes. And I'll also have the Forgiven and Set Free book in the show notes as well. So if you're wanting to snag a copy and walk through that, we don't want you to feel left in the dark. Or if you know someone who is walking through it and want to buy them the book or anything, we want to have those resources available for you. We hope that this episode will shed some light on what is happening, that you're probably around people that have experienced this, whether you know it or not. And so we hope that this will encourage you, whether you've experienced it, to be able to come forward and share it with somebody and experience that true freedom and healing and forgiveness, that forgiveness is yours for the taking too.
Yeah, it's a hard topic. Like this is a very sensitive topic, and I can definitely empathize it. It's very challenging. It's challenging to even think that I had experienced this. Like I had moments, like when I was kind of unpacking and walking through everything, where I was like, oh my gosh, like, did I really do this? Like, I don't even recognize the person that I was when I was 18. And so I feel like just having a lot of grace for those who have experienced it, and just know that they are battling their own internal stuff.
Yes.
And I think it just goes to show that you really don't know like what people are walking through. People can look like they have it together, and they can look like they, are doing really great, but that might not be the case.
Kristi, would you pray to close us out?
I would love to. Dear God, I thank you and praise you that you are a God who loves and forgives, Lord. I pray over the one that you wanted to hear this message today. I pray that they come to you fully surrendered and know that you will meet him or her wherever they are. I pray they find courage to start the healing journey. And because you are a God who loves his people, we know that you will be with him, revealing your goodness, your faithfulness, and your pursuit in them, Lord. I pray over the ones who didn't experience this, God. I pray they have the courage to not judge and to be able to be the hands and the feet of the Lord, to love them even if they don't understand, that they can love the ones who did experience this the way that you love them, Lord. And Holy Spirit, I pray for a stirring in those you want to stir, to be bold in their faith, to love like you, and to bring glory to your kingdom. I pray blessings upon blessings, Lord, upon everyone listening. And I pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I'm forever grateful you listened to today's episode. It would bless my socks off if you subscribed and continued to listen along. By sharing this podcast, it allows for others to hear the good news that they can also experience the freedom that God has for them. Freedom is here for the taking. And I'd love to hear what you think and what God is doing in your life. So shoot me a DM or email, and I'd love to chat and pray with you. If you have time, leave a review and follow us over on Instagram. I'll talk to you soon. Keep seeking God to see his glory in your story.